You've got your new Wildsyde e-bike. Now, let's help you assemble it. This video will help with the assembly of the Paree Roam from our electric classic range. Please note that where assembly and/or features are the same, the occasional clip in this video has been copied from the assembly of our Shadow electric cruiser featured in matte olive. Open the box and remove the foam pack containing documentation, components, tools, and the headlight assembly. Remove the fender and stay rods packed together and located on top of the front wheel. The rods may also be packed separately elsewhere in the bike box. Here are the items you should find: welcome letter, unpacking and assembly instructions, quick start guide, manual, quick release skewer, fender and fender stay rods, headlight, pedals, battery keys, battery charger unit and AC cable, stem plug, and bell. Also supplied are touch-up paint and a basic set of tools, but you may prefer to use your own as we have done in this video. You will also need scissors or cable cutters and bike grease, which are not supplied in the box. Before removing the bike, carefully cut the zip tie attaching the front wheel to the frame, then remove the wheel. Now lift the bike from each end, carefully place it on the ground on the back wheel and onto the front fork. Removing all packaging, carefully cutting away tape and zip ties. Be extra careful not to accidentally cut through bike cables or into other components. Now we're going to fit the handlebars. First, remove the protective black plastic cover from the end of the stem. Carefully align the stem with the steer tube and slot in place. Lightly tighten the hex bolt on top of the stem. We will tighten fully when we customize the rider setup later on. Now we are going to fit the quick release skewer onto the front wheel. First, remove the adjusting nut and conical spring, applying a small amount of grease to the skewer axle. Insert the skewer into the wheel hub, ensuring the quick release lever is on the opposite side to the brake rotor. Replace the conical spring and nut, making sure the narrow end of the spring faces in towards the wheel. Give the nut about 5 half turns ready to go into the fork dropouts. Remove the fork spreader from the bottom of the fork. Now remove the brake caliper shim. Move the front wheel into place, carefully aligning into the fork dropouts and onto the quick release skewer, ensuring the brake rotors precisely align between the calipers. Tighten both the skewer lever and adjustment nut, closing the lever once tight enough to leave an imprint on the palm of the hand. Now rest the bike onto its kickstand. Next, we're going to fit the fender and headlight to the front fork. First, locate the fender and fender stay rods. Using a Phillips head screwdriver, loosen the top screw attached to the bracket on the outside of the fender. Then completely remove the bottom screw. Making sure the rod ends are angled upwards, now slide the curved end underneath the bracket, carefully centering into position as shown. Replace the bottom screw and lightly tighten both. We will securely tighten them after we've finished attaching the fender to the fork. Next, remove the hex bolt and nut from the fork crown with a 4mm hex key and 10mm wrench. Slide the fender over the front wheel, positioning the tab behind the front fork. We're also now going to fit the headlight, feeding the bolt through everything including the washer, into the headlight bracket, fork crown, and fender tab, through the other washer, and finally into the lock nut, tightening firmly. Now remove the hex bolts from the bottom of both sides of the fork. Align the holes at the end of the fender rods, replace hex bolts, and tighten firmly. If necessary, the height of the rods can be adjusted to ensure optimum clearance between the wheel and fender. Once in position, fully tighten the bracket screws. Next, locate the small headlight cable, carefully studying the connection ports. The pins inside are very delicate, so be sure to meticulously align the arrow on one port with the groove on the other. Then, once certain, push together to connect. Now we are going to attach the pedals to the cranks. locate the right and left pedal as marked on the ends of the spindle threads. Apply a small amount of grease onto the thread before attaching, then align the spindle and thread, always turning the nut towards the front of the bike on both sides. Tighten both firmly with a 15mm wrench or specific pedal wrench. Next, adjust the seat post to the desired height. Rule of thumb is to align it with the bottom of the pelvis, then tighten. While sitting on the saddle, adjust the handlebars to a comfortable height position. Pull up on the headset cone and loosen the stem bolt to adjust height. Push the headset cone back into position. Ensure the front wheel is also straight, which is best done by putting the wheel between your knees and aligning the stem with the wheel. Once perfectly straight, tighten the stem bolt securely using the hex key. Once all adjustments have been made, insert the stem plug. Also tighten the hex bolt located underneath the stem, designed for fine adjustment. It is also recommended at this point to fully tighten the headlight nut and bolt using 13 and 14mm wrenches respectively. Tilt the headlight down to illuminate the roadway and tighten securely until there is no movement at all. The very last thing to fit is the bell to the left-hand side of the handlebars with the bell lever just above PAS buttons. Now inflate both tires to the recommended pressure according to rider preferences and conditions. It's now time to charge your battery. To begin charging, slide away the port cover on the side of the battery pack casing and insert connector. Plug AC into the socket to begin charging. Once plugged in, the charging unit indicator light will turn from green to red as soon as charging begins. It is necessary to charge the battery fully for 6 to 8 hours until the charging light has turned green. That's it. Now watch the quick start guide video to get to know the controls and functions of your Wildsyde eBike.